What's up, Triple B fan and jewelry lovers? We're back at it with the requested video, which is going to be going over old pawn and native pieces. So this video isn't going to be very long, but there are some websites, some helpful information throughout this video. We're going to be going over some of the pieces, some of the jewelry makers, and the styles to really kind of help date your pieces. So be sure to stick around, hit that like and subscribe. Let's check out some beautiful native jewelry. Alrighty, so the first thing on the agenda is just establishing what is old pawn. Now, old pawn, date-wise, is anywhere between 1900 to 1930s, though it is still practiced today. The time frame that we're talking about is early 1900s to 1930s-ish, and all that would happen is pretty much Native Americans would either handcraft or use family jewelry pieces, trade them into a pawn shop, just like a pawn shop today. They would trade them into the pawn shop. They would get the necessities that they need, and money, shelter, so on. So they would trade in the pieces for those necessities. If they were unable to repay the pawn shop back within a year time frame, it would go into dead pawn status. Now, once it was in dead pawn status, the pawn shop would be able to sell it out to other people. So that was like the baseline of everything right there is, you know, no matter what it is that the pawn shop would take care of for them, if they were unable to pay it back in a year, it would enter dead pawn status and then be sold out. So those authentic, true authentic old pawn pieces, there are some and very few out there that still have the receipt for the actual pawn transaction. But that's what it's really referring to as an old pawn. Now, again, it still does happen today, but that term definitely gets thrown around pretty loosely, whereas that's what it's specifically talking about. Again, that trade-in from Native Americans, and then after the pawn time, which again was about a year, and then it would enter dead pawn, and then it would be sold out to people. That's true, authentic old pawn. Now, again, obviously, it still happens today, so there are still, I guess you could call it new pawn, so it does still happen today, but then there's one also part in this article that I feel like is very important, which is Fred Harvey jewelry. Now, Fred Harvey jewelry was right around to the 1920s, 30s era, to where it was kind of, I guess the best way is like a copyright, or they pretty much took the design of native pieces, made them their own, and sold them out as the same. So there are very old native pieces that aren't technically native, but they were built the same way. Heavy sterling silver. Now, the other big part about it is sterling silver ingot, which would be your heavy sterling silver. That's going to be a pretty much a true way to tell that you have an original piece compared to silver sheeting, which was manufactured. So again, one is more of handcrafted blacksmith, and the other is manufactured. So as long as we can gauge those details, that's really going to be able to tell you everything that you need to know within your native pieces. Now, I'm going to go into a couple of different scenarios, some different examples, and then we're just going to try to pinpoint. But that was the biggest point, is 1900s to 1930s. Now, there are prior than that pawn pieces. Now, as far as what I've read and everything that I've gained, is anything prior to the 1900s does not have big stones. So the big stones were introduced after the fact, whereas before it was just heavy sterling jewelry with, again, not a lot of stone action, which you could pretty much see in the picture in this article. You know, that's going to be more of your older piece, the authentic. Again, it's just base sterling with little bit of stone action, whereas we see the high selling pieces as these big bulky turquoise pieces inlaid in sterling. Again, that's going to be later 1930s, 40s, 50s, and that's pretty much what I've gained. So we're just going to go through a couple different examples. Again, there's some websites, some really good to know information, so be sure to stick around. I hope that wasn't too doling for everybody. Again, this is just a very hard topic, lots of information, which is probably the first video that I'm really doing like this. So one of the key indicators, now you're going to want to look at your turquoise. Now, if you have a piece that you're kind of trying to judge, the turquoise is the tell-all. One, the turquoise over the time in the years turns from a blue to a green. So if you have a turquoise piece that is really blue and like green, it's going to tell you that it's definitely an older piece. Now, also, if you look inside of this turquoise, you can see the veins throughout it. Again, that's going to tell you that you have a true turquoise piece. Again, like newer jewelry, again, the more polished, the more perfect it is, it's going to be newer. The more, you know, the veins going through, the little pittings, everything else like that just really shows that it's a true turquoise piece. So this one is a belt buckle. Now you got the little floral beads. This one, I would say, based off of everything that I've read, is not necessarily old pawn, but it could be roughly, I would say, on the later age of like 1930s and above. Only because of a few different key factors. So you have like the sterling silver work throughout the floral style. That's definitely going to be later in age. And then we're going to show off the back here real quick. Now this one is TM, so it is signed. Pretty nice looking piece, but again, I think that this one, I would even dare say that it's probably 50s and above. And I'm going to just pretty much do this with every piece to just kind of give you some indicators of age, and based off of all the information that I just took in, which is pretty crazy. So again, I would say that this is a newer piece. True authentic pawn. Again, without having that receipt, it is so hard to tell. Now, I do believe that it is native Southwest, without a doubt. Up next, we have a squash blossom. Now, this one, I would say, see exactly how they said right in the listing, 1930s. Now, I can't remember exactly what these are called, but there's the little tripling of like the bead-like parts. Actually, you can see one missing right there. Looking at that turquoise, you got that blue-green coloring, the pitting, you know, the rough edges. And as you can see, there is not a lot of floral detail. Because again, it went from blacksmithing, so again, very handmade, to industrialized a little bit. So that's where they really started putting in the floral attributes and everything else like that. So honestly, the more detailed is going to tell you the date. More detailed later on, less detailed. Again, it's going to be more of an early 1900s piece, just like this one. Again, it has the floral pieces, beautiful inlay turquoise, sterling silver beads. You got a little bit of wire work right there in the center, but nothing crazy. So again, this is called a squash blossom. These pieces sell for so much money. Now this one actually, it sold for $799, but I'm telling you, they definitely sell for a lot more. So again, just a gorgeous old pawn. I would say that this is most likely an authentic pawn, based off of just, again, the design, everything that I've read, watched a couple videos. Again, I'm sure if you're watching these videos, you've probably seen Dr. Lori at some point or another. Just going to shout her out really quick. Again, if you have some questions about it, definitely hop on over there. Dr. Lori has very informative videos on this and can definitely, you know, take it that one step further. So just like this one, you have that twisted wire work. You have that floral etching throughout the sterling silver. Again, that braided sterling silver design. They're saying 19 to 1930s, possibly. But again, this is one that I would say is probably a little bit on the later edge, or later age. Again, just based off of that and everything that I've read. That turquoise, though, absolutely gorgeous, highly polished. Again, there's not a lot of pittage, not a lot of vein action. So again, I would say that this is most likely a later piece. So again, that one sold $543. And again, guys, these pieces still do sell for so very much money. Now, my original search was old pawn, native, and then I just put in native sterling silver. So it ended up really changing the prices of things as well. So this one more is just saying Navajo is who made it. And then I just want you to check out this turquoise. There is a highly big difference between the piece that we had just looked at, like that, and then this one. Again, you could see the vein action throughout that turquoise, the discoloration, that green blue. I mean, this piece is in absolute gorgeous condition. There is the back, and again, it just has the floral ends. It does have some braiding around the outside. Again, the twisted sterling silver. But that is about it. And then you come down to that main pendant piece, and again, you got the swirled, you got the braided, but there isn't any stampings of large floral pieces or anything else like that. So again, this one I would say, again, on the older side, 19 to 1930s, and this one sold $3,000. So again, really identifying, and I'm sure that there's ways, websites out there that where you could send it to get it verified, I'm sure. But just looking at it, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell a true, authentic piece. Again, just like this one, you can see the veins throughout the turquoise. Pretty simple in design. Again, large, hot, large turquoise pieces, pretty much made the same exact way. Now, these pieces aren't going to be signed anything as well. So if it is signed, that's also kind of telling you that it's going to be 1930s and above. So again, unsigned is actually good because, again, at that point they were selling jewelry pieces that they either owned and have been passed down from generation, or they were crafting right there. And the time frame, to give you an idea, is they were taught by the Spanish. So the Spanish came over, taught them how to create these jewelry pieces, and that's where it originated from. So that kind of gives you a date on how far back it was. So again, this one though, listed $2,695. That is what it sold for. Again, these pieces really do sell for a lot of money. This one I thought was super cool though. You got the 3D spider squash blossom. Regardless of anything, that is such an amazing piece. Again, you got that dark blue, green turquoise. I'm not sure what the other one is, but again, really cool spiders, 3D style. There are some really amazing pieces when it comes to Southwest native pieces. And again, there's the back. Again, that same style construction, the same floral squash blossom design. This one, $2,250. Again, absolutely stunning. Another one that we're going to go over is, and I might mispronounce this, is Jacla necklace. Now, as far as I had known, I thought it was a different style. But this one is heavily used he-she beads, which are going to be these turquoise pieces. These, I do believe that's like a mother of pearl or shell. Santo Domingo style. Again, definitely different. You got the large inlay style. These are more just like he-she beads. Now, this one was listed for $1,250. Again, these even sell for a lot. And again, that true, authentic turquoise. Again, if you see a turquoise piece and it doesn't have any discoloration or anything else like that, you can already tell that it's going to be newer manufactured. Whereas these pieces are, rough polished. And exactly, discoloration, veins throughout. And again, that's just another style. Again, the Jacqueline necklaces. This one has heavy turquoise on it. I honestly, I think that this one might be a newer piece. Again, not like early 1900s. We're going to go to the other half. Just stunning turquoise, though. Super shiny, but you can still see the pitting, the vein action. I mean, just an amazing. Also stamped sterling. So again, we're going to say that that's 1930s and above because, again, it's stamped sterling, which means it was manufactured simply to be sold. So again, if it's marked sterling, you're already talking a later date. But again, this one still sold $1,101. Again, they still sell very, very well. And I think we have one more here. This one looks like coral. Different styles of turquoise, he-she beads, some more coral. I mean, just an amazing piece. And again, I would say that this one is on the later side. Again, prior to the 1930s, it was simply just heavy sterling. After the 1930s is when they started really mixing it up a little bit. And again, the name that we had went over before, that kind of has something to do with it because they were manufacturing those pieces and kind of giving that extra to where the native people actually didn't like it at all, and they were heavily against it. But then once they seen the amount of attraction, they kind of inherited the idea and then started to make it as well, because again, it was selling to the tourists in the area for more. So again, they were more just sterling, light stone action. Then once it became manufactured and seen the heavy turquoise use, they kind of adopted the idea, started making their own pieces that way. That's another thing as well. It's kind of really hard. You get a lot of different information out there. But again, I think, even as I go through this, you could really start to see those really old pieces, again, specifically referring to Old Pawn. Now, this one is a concho belt. Again, floral design, but you could see how rough cut it is. Again, you can tell that was made by hand stamped. You got the little inlay turquoise center. You got the green, also some blue. Again, it is pretty easy to tell. And I would say that this one, 1910 to 1920s, I could agree with that. Just based off the look. Again, not heavy turquoise usage. Simplistic in design. Looks handcrafted. So again, this one was listed for $7,500. I think it was like $6,000 is what it sold for. So not only just necklaces, earrings, rings do really well, but also some belt action. Here's another one. This one I would say is 1930s and above, because again, you're talking about those large turquoise pieces. Not completely well polished. You have the etching, but you could kind of see the difference of detail. The more detail, again, they started off hand making, whereas again, if you look at this one, there's lots of detail, but there's no rhyme or reason. Again, it's kind of more of like an artist painting, whereas this one's more of like a transfer, I guess is the best way to explain it. So there's that belt there. Again, big money when you're talking about these Southwest pieces. Here's another one. This one should be Navajo. I mean, again, that much detail. You're talking 1930s and above. Sterling silver, floral design. I mean, that is just gorgeous. But again, I wouldn't classify this one as Old Pawn. I would just native made piece. Absolutely stunning. And I think we have one more example right here, which is again that highly polished turquoise. The amount of inlay, the amount of detail. Again, not Old Pawn, but Native American. Also signed, which probably is Alice Quam. So again, signed Zuni, 40,200, and there's that AQ signature. Now, with things being signed, this is probably the most informative part about this, which is going to be this website. It's AMERINDIEN.com. This pretty much, now it does not have all of the signatures, but if you have newer Native American pieces, I'd say this website is right up your alley. So if you find a piece and it's got, a G signature that looks like that, no matter what the signature is, it's got an A through Z, super easy to use, alphabetical order, which we love. And actually, Josie just had a piece in her show the other day. While she was showing it, I hopped on right over here, found the signature, was able to tell. She was running it on Whatnot, was able to tell them exactly who signed it. So again, definitely want to save this website. It'll make time efficiency 100 times better. And again, I'm not saying that all signatures are there, but they do have a massive catalog of signatures, and that could really definitely help you. And then the last one, what do we got here, is the different styles of turquoise. So again, the clusters, which started, they're saying 1920s to 1930s, but again, I'd say that it's more of the 1930s. Cluster turquoise, which is again why I'm saying, if you find cluster turquoise, you're talking not Old Pawn, but right outside of it and newer age. So anything cluster-wise, even with the squash blossom, as you can see in that picture right there, you got the rings, the bracelets. Anything cluster turquoise like that is going to be anything from like 1930s on up, all different styles. There is, I do believe, 2 different patterns. There's Starburst, which is going to be heavy stone in the center, and then little turquoise pieces all the way around. That's going to be more of a Starburst. And then one of the most popular patterns is going to be the Sunburst pattern. So again, your heavy stone center with a bunch of little ones all the way around. That's going to be your most common style of turquoise. Is going to be that Sunburst, which is just kind of a key word for you guys. So again, between that website, a little bit of the information again on Old Pawn and what it means. Again, the only way to 100% guarantee that something is Old Pawn is having that receipt. Outside of that, it should not be signed anything. It should be, again, that silver ingot, which is going to be super heavy. Weight does matter in this scenario. So the heavier it is, unsigned, that's how you could kind of base it on a true, authentic Old Pawn piece. Outside of that, look for your signature, because then it's less about Old Pawn and more to do with the designer, which fluctuates the price. That's how I'd go based off of it. So if it's unsigned and it looks heavy, Old Pawn. If it's anything other than signed, look at that signature, and hopefully you got, a good name that sells for big money. So that's the first informative video that I've ever done. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I hope you enjoyed, got some good information out of it. Hopefully I don't get, partially spot on, because again, even when you look online, it's kind of a little all over the place. This is history. That's all I can say. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.